Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the Gut Wrench Podcast, episode number 111. My name is Mocha. This, as you all know, is the Gut Wrench Podcast, and I'm sure a lot of you would love if I was to change that, same boring, dreary, open into something exciting every week, or something off the walls like, hello everyone, my name is Mocha, and I just got back from having sex with your mom. Something edgy, something off the walls like that every week. But it's hard to come up with materials and stuff of that nature. So that's why I decided to forego the your mama jokes and instead just come out and say what I've been thinking this entire time. That this is episode 111. For those of you who don't know, in the world of witchcraft, that's actually a blessing to have 3 letters match up. So, like, 111 means something, 222 means something, 333 means something, 444 means something, 555 means something. Of course, 666 also has a meaning to a lot of people, including us in the witchcraft community. 777 means that it's actually a very lucky number, believe it or not. I don't know how they derive that from luck, but they have their own set of psychological rules or whatever, and I've never really looked into it all that much, but I have, after saying that I haven't looked into it, I was about to say that I have studied it. Haha, very funny. Well, I've studied it enough to know that, 888 means something, 999 means something, and as far as I know, those trifecta of numbers, that's where the blessings stop, But anyway, I'm getting off topic, and I know that I was, not because I'm trying to burn time or anything like that. Recently, I said that in a previous broadcast, I did say that if Sami Zayn were to win the Royal Rumble, that I would forego any wrestling content. Now, allow me to explain why. It's because the last time that I took a strike, even though I took a strike and I took a hiatus from WWE, and I kept watching stuff like TNA and AEW, and I would switch frequently between the two, this time I can't do that. Because unfortunately for me, I don't have internet, and I don't really have access to the library in order to do that. AEW doesn't really have like a stable platform that they're constantly broadcasting from. Understand that, ladies and gentlemen. So I do apologize if that breaks anyone's heart. And it's going to break my heart to some extent too, because January is Royal Rumble season, and speaking of which, do I have a Royal Rumble episode planned this week? However, I can't in good faith, if I can't bring you AEW, Impact Wrestling, All-Star Wrestling, MJW, NJPW, like if I can't bring you Lucha Underground, if I can't bring you anything at all, I'm not going to watch Sami Zayn's journey through the Royal Rumble. Understand how I'm saying that. Understand that I'm mocking him for being exactly what he is, a cartoonishly funny version of Goofy or Mickey Mouse. He is, without a doubt, the most, and I'm not supposed to say this word because it's like using forbidden monk, or whatever. I'm not supposed to say, but he's some sort of retarded. Either he's below the line of retarded, or he's above, just very, very above the tip of the retarded spectrum. because Sami Zayn has no charisma, has no acting skills whatsoever. He's like, I can't say that he's an anomaly because that wouldn't make sense. Because anomalies actually somehow make sense. Take Samoa Joe, for example. You don't know whether he's a technical wrestler, a powerhouse, or whether he's a ground grappler, a submissions specialist. Like, there's so many things that Samoa Joe is, but a few of them counteract each other. Like, if you were to draw a Venn diagram of what Samoa Joe is, and then draw on the left side a powerhouse, usually a powerhouse doesn't have technical prowess in the wrestling ring. Usually all they're focused with is, hey, I'm going to beat you up, I'm going to wear you down, and strike after strike after strike after strike, hey, look at me, big muscle man, like Braun Strowman or something. Roman Reigns, for instance. Anyway, if Sami Zayn wins the Royal Rumble, I don't care if he's facing Roman Reigns, which I guess that story makes the most sense, seeing as though that he's an honorary Uso. It's almost like whenever they were doing that storyline, everyone in the WWE was treating Sami Zayn like he was this Make-A-Wish kid, and they were like, hey, shh, don't tell everybody, Sammy is coming into the room, okay? Treat him like he's part of the family, okay? Okay. Hey, Sammy, how are you? Nice to see you again, buddy. Oh, my goodness. It's good to see you again. Like, what the fuck, dude? He didn't all of a sudden become popular overnight. He wasn't like some hit sensation on TikTok. He doesn't have charisma. This guy over here, he's Mr. Personality right there. Are you fucking joking? And I'm not going to sit through Sami Zayn's his autistic spectrum going through the Royal Rumble. So I just thought that I would clear that up, regardless of whether he's facing Seth Rollins, who I believe should be number one in the world of professional wrestling, but somehow Roman Reigns is. I guess that's neither here nor there, and this is sort of a cold open to a show. At this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, I have not yet recorded the show, but we will be watching the Monday Night Raw after the Royal Rumble in 2005. Because Royal Rumble season is upon us, and I thought this week, instead of watching the Royal Rumble, because I have today and tomorrow to get this episode out before my deadline is gone, I guess you could say. But that's something that I thought that I would bring to your all's attention, as well as the fact of clearing up the fact that if I can't, like right now, the reason that you're seeing nothing but WWE, aside from maybe one Impact Wrestling episode that I did do recently, and another one that I have planned later on, but I don't have like all kinds of Impact Wrestling, like if I had a library to choose from, then I wouldn't say, hey, whenever WWE picks Sami Zayn to win the Royal Rumble, guess what, guys, we're back on strike. Hey, I would look at that as a challenge, but now I can't do that because I don't have but so many Impact Wrestling episodes, you understand? And I would hate to say, hey, we're going on strike, and then maybe 4 or 5 weeks go by, and then all of a sudden you don't hear from me again. So I thought the best course of action to take is to fully commit to the strike. And by that, I mean not upload any episodes at all. But the Royal Rumble has yet to happen, to my knowledge, despite the lack of updates that I'm getting, because I'm really not watching any wrestling, I guess. You know, usually in YouTube videos or whatever, they'll be like, hey guys, with the Royal Rumble this Sunday, you know, or something like that. They're really not doing that. I'm not seeing any Twitter posts. The one Twitter post that I did see was a fatal four-way for the championship that Roman Reigns has, the Universal WWE Universal Championship, I think that it is. Because I know that Rollins has the other one. Like I said, Rollins should be ranked number one. Reigns is, yeah, he's doing a great job as champion, but at the same time, he's not really putting in the effort as far as the charisma goes. And like I stated before, if you're looking for Mr. Personality, Seth Rollins is the guy for the job. And I believe that that puts him above and beyond Roman Reigns. So Roman being number one and Seth being number two in the rankings, I don't really see that. Like, that shouldn't, who's the harder working champion? You know, I do believe that it's Seth, but anyway, that's enough of me ranting and raving about the common state of the WWE. And I couldn't even tell you who all's in the Fatal 4-Way, but I was happy. I was so happy to see that AJ Styles was in it. Multi-man matches aren't really my favorite either, so the fact that he's not in like a one-on-one match is a good change of pace. But another thing, Sami Zayn nor Kevin Owens, I'm pretty sure neither one of those two individuals are in the Fatal 4-Way. And that's a good thing too, because that would have been 3 years in a row that Reigns, I do believe 3 years in a row that Reigns faced Kevin Owens at the Royal Rumble. Because I'm pretty sure it was 2019 he faced him, 2020 he faced him, and like 21. Well, I guess that's not 3 years in a row, but you get where I'm coming from here. It's hard to believe really that it's, because I did have a calendar, but I don't know where it went. And it was like all of his opponents listed. And listing all of his opponents, I'm pretty sure I've seen Kevin Owens pop up like 5 or 6 times. And I'm just sitting there wondering to myself, how many dicks did Kevin Owens suck in order to get put on that card so many times? Because up until that point, Owens hasn't been relevant since like 2001, whenever he was sticking his thumb up and he was saying, "Package power driver, everybody." Whatever the fuck that's supposed to mean. Yeah, I get it. It's his finishing move. But why? Why was that on his t-shirt? Why was that something that he said? Like, it doesn't go back to... Take, for example, my thing that I say whenever I close the show each and every week. Good night, everybody. That's a wrap, you know? That's a wrap is something that I commandeered, if you will. I took it from Kenny Omega, and I did that in order to mock Kevin Owens. Because, you see, only one of them has the initials KO, and that actually means something. Do you see where this is going? I did that in a mockery fashion. So if I had a t-shirt that said, "Good night, everybody," that's a wrap. And then it had the initials of KO on the back. That would be satire right there. That's got to be some sort of satire. Welcome to episode 111 of the Gut Wrench Podcast. Yes, you just heard a cold open that I did record a few weeks ago, I want to say, just to clear up some rather obvious things that I've said that I've yet to rebuttal. Like last week, I didn't say it. The week before that, I'm almost certain that I didn't say it. You know, I only said it the one time that if Sami Zayn wins the Royal Rumble, you're not going to be hearing from me anytime soon. And the reason that is because I cannot stomach the fact that if they waste the Royal Rumble on Sami Zayn, hell, if they waste the Elimination Chamber on Sami Zayn, which should be after the Royal Rumble, but I've discussed this before, the fact is that February is very meh for the WWE because they don't even know what they're going to do. You know, they don't know, hey, are we going to do the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, which usually gets done in June? You know, why do a pay-per-view in June when we can do it in February right before our April big, you know, whatever the hell fucking main event end of the year show is, as they put it, but it's not the end of the year show because the end of the year isn't until like December, you know, but it's their big hoorah. It's WWE's big, oh my God, there's nothing bigger than WrestleMania. And it's like, yes, there is. There's literally things bigger than WrestleMania. And they thought that they couldn't get any bigger because, oh my God, we filled up a football stadium full of fucking people. And we lied to you about the attendance, by the way. What was it, 195,000 people in AT&T Stadium? Yes, they filled up a football field full of people. But, I mean, they've filled up baseball stadiums before. Believe it or not. Yeah, they've had, what's the name? I watched a cage match on a DVD that I had, and the wrestling ring looked considerably small because it looked like that they were recording it with a potato too, because there was not like any HD cameras or anything like that. There was just this one guy, practically just one person with a camcorder, and it was almost like he was up there way in the back, you know, because you could practically see the the baseball stadium. And the wrestling ring, it looked so small. But Andre the Giant was there and he was wrestling someone. I don't know who it was. But it was in a cage match on a DVD that I had, like I was saying. Anyway, welcome to episode 111 of the Gut Wrench Podcast. My name is Mocha. And yes, you just probably already heard that because, you know, it's a cold open that I did, hoping to get this episode completed. For that matter, I was hoping to talk about the episode, but then I got distracted by the whole Sami Zayn thing because it's infuriating. Really, it is. So I thought instead of looking at the Royal Rumble, we would look at an episode after the Royal Rumble. From an episode after the Royal Rumble in 2005. So let's get started on that. Triple H comes to the ring, comes to open the show on Monday Night Raw, and on commentary, they talk about Randy Orton coming so close but losing the match. For me growing up, we really didn't have all kinds of internet or any sort of thing like that. As I do right now, all I have is phone service. Whenever you heard that there was going to be a pay-per-view on a TV channel from a pay-per-view block, which, if you didn't know, pay-per-view blocks, guys, is sort of interesting to me. The pay-per-view blocks that they had was like, there was like 10 of them, right? Hang on one second. Anyway, sorry about that. I had to go feed that cat, and I didn't want any meowing or any sort of, tomfuckery called on high quality HD camera, or for that matter, like, I didn't want it to be like that fucking baseball wrestling match that I seen that was recorded by a potato. It's nothing like that. Anyway, back to what I was saying. There used to be these pay-per-view blocks. I can remember whenever I was a kid, and these god dang things were like 6 payments of $30, and you could order this pay-per-view and you could see it all fucking day. I guess it was just on all day whenever you ordered it. I can only remember twice my grandma ordering a pay-per-view block, and once when my mom's boyfriend stole the somehow, I'm not sure how he did it. He just went under the house. That's what I remember her telling me, at least. He went under, like, my mom's trailer and somehow stole an cable from my neighbor, which allowed us to watch WrestleMania. Like, it was whenever WrestleMania went big time, because I remember seeing those commercials too. Right when the pay-per-view block, because that's what they'll do, right at that pay-per-view block. And don't worry, I have a point. Like, I literally have a point, and I kind of have a story. So, this is not just me yammering on about absolutely nothing. The pay-per-view blocks, like, think about that. $6. $6. Holy shit. 6 payments of $39.99 plus service and handling fees, which were usually $12.99. But that was only one payment of $12.99 plus taxes. Oh my God, plus taxes. I wonder if the taxes were, like, hear me out. Were there taxes on the handling fees, or not the handling, but the service fees? And then there were also taxes on the actual pay-per-view on each individual payment, Like, wow, they must have been making bank off of these people who just wanted to see a pay-per-view. And sometimes my uncle would fall asleep. Keep in mind, I was a minor at the time. He would fall asleep, and I guess he would fall asleep watching these goddamn pay-per-view blocks of, like, Girls Gone Wild or whatever. Because whenever I would come into the room, which was maybe Saturday night, maybe it was 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, whenever I would come in the room, they would show the same, like, 30-second clip, like, hey, order now to see Girls Gone Wild. And then it would be like, or order now to see Jerry Springer, totally uncensored. And the one time that they did order Jerry Springer, they had all the kids in one room, and they had our door shut, right? But all you could hear is, like, every once in a while, someone would say something like, oh man, she's got a nice pair. Oh man, I like that. Oh, that's pretty hot. And then I'm like, what the hell are they watching? But of course, knowing now what the hell that they were watching, but they were like 50 years old, like, why the hell do they need to watch it? Like, it would be more useful to make me watch it and then teach me about, like, where not to touch a woman or something. I don't know. I was like 12. It's not important. Anyway, that was the story. That was the point that I was going to make. A pay-per-view block, or if you didn't know whether it was going to be good or not. So, and the other point that I was going to make is the fact that you would have to pay that. I keep saying $6. God damn it. If only it was $6. $6, that's outrageous. For a 4.5 hour pay-per-view? Are you fucking joking? No, that's pretty good. It's probably what the DVD replay cost. But 6 payments of $39.99 plus processing fees, plus shipping and handling, plus taxes, like, you can't. The only other option, other than doing that, the only other option that you had was to wait until the following Monday Night Raw or the Friday Night SmackDown, or to go on the internet, which, as stated before, I don't have internet now and I don't have internet before. My point is, the only way that you could see whether or not my favorite wrestler had won or walked away with a championship within the pay-per-view is to wait the 24 hours elongated time period that there was to actually to see if they won their match, was only if my mom was going from 9 o'clock until 11. Only if she was gone from 9 o'clock until 11 o'clock that night. She wasn't, because, as I've stated before, I could only watch one episode of wrestling growing up a week because she got tired of wrestling. Ric Flair and Triple H are in the ring together, and Ric Flair calls Triple H the measuring stick of this business. The greatest wrestler alive today is what he calls him. That's pretty high praise coming from the 16-time world champion. The people are booing and cheering, but the booing outweighs the cheers. Which, honestly, I've talked about this previously, but the 16-time world champion, the 16 times that Ric Flair has won the world championships, is only counting the WWE and the WCW championships, because, of course, WWE owns the domain for WCW, because, of course, that's why they would, filter that full of, hey, here's your 16-time world champion. He's actually won Ric Flair's title reigns, his title wins. It's much more than 16, let's put it that way. It's 17 or more. But good luck counting all of the times that he's won the NWA championship. The internet can't even count that much, because there's conflicting records, like how many times did he win the NWA championship, the Vern Gagne championship, for that matter. Probably anything before NWA, which I can't really think, because I wasn't born then and no one ever told me about it. I haven't read anything about it. I haven't really done much research about the championships that were back then, but this is only counting as world titles. Good luck counting all of his minor titles as well. Good luck counting all of his accomplishments before then as well. Back when this was territories or whatever else. He just won the 16 championships that they claim that he has. It is practically impossible to count the number of championships that Ric Flair has held in his career. It does not make him the better wrestler. Does that make him the better wrestler? Question mark. No, not really. If anything, it just makes him the better negotiator, which makes sense. You suck chants echoing throughout the arena as Triple H then ends up going to introduce the winner of this year's Royal Rumble. Keep in mind, the Royal Rumble was 24 hours ago. This man had to go through, the winner of the Royal Rumble had to go through 29 other men, or at least that's what they'll tell you. In reality, Dave Bautista got, he only had to go through 5 people, I think it was, but because by the time that he got there, there was only like 5 or 6 people left in the Royal Rumble. Of this year's Royal Rumble, the winner of this year's Royal Rumble, and if you know anything about the fact that he caused a rift in the group of Evolution because the champion and the number one contender are both on the same team. But the champion is so greedy and so prideful at the same time, he doesn't think that his teammate would ever turn their backs on him. Oh my God. At the same time, he doesn't think that his teammates would ever turn their backs on him because he is the exception to the rules. And he grooms his teammates to go after another champion, to go after the consolation prize. Triple H even goes as far as to use somebody else's vehicle in JBL's limo to set up and make it look like the champion from SmackDown was trying to run over Dave Bautista. So weeks later, Triple H and Dave Bautista will be in the parking lot of, I'm assuming, Monday Night Raw, something like that. And someone, presumably someone outside of Evolution, maybe, because Ric Flair seems to have no, knowledge of what's happening. But what ends up happening, if you're wondering, is someone ends up trying to run over Dave Bautista in the parking lot. But who's there to save the day and pull Dave Bautista out of the way right in the nick of time? Triple H. And he even confesses to Ric Flair, and unknowing to Triple H, Dave Bautista is listening in on the conversation that they're having. Triple H tells Ric Flair that he set up that he set up JBL to take the fall for running over Dave Bautista because they used JBL's limo. Groom his teammates to go after another champion, to go after the consolation prize. Set up to make it look like the champion of SmackDown was trying to run over Dave Bautista. And Triple H was there to save Bautista. But weeks later, Bautista would overhear in conversation that Triple H set up JBL to frame him by paying someone to drive JBL's limo into Dave Bautista so Triple H could frame JBL to make Triple H look like a hero because he saved Bautista's life. It's sort of like a "you owe me one." And there's been a lot of people who have said that Triple H Evolution, for the number one reason that he created the group was to protect himself. But in reality, Triple H actually did it because he missed his friend. So the story of how Evolution came about was the fact that Triple H had seen, here it is. A story I heard is that he seen Ric Flair in the back, and he was kicking dirt, and he was like just walking around moping and like real sad like, and he had an idea to make the Nature Boy feel like the Nature Boy once again. Triple H says it would be his honor and his privilege to go to WrestleMania and defend his championship against his fellow Evolution member, Dave Bautista. See, I remember this playing out a little bit differently. Here's where I stick my foot in my mouth, though, because the next clip that I'm going to try to explain the best of my ability is what happened. I remember this playing out a little bit differently because I remember Triple H trying to do everything in his power to get Dave Batista to fight JBL. What I talked about earlier was in fact that Triple H had talked about in a conversation with Ric Flair that he admitted to trying to run over Dave Batista. Oh, okay. If continuity tells us anything, it is that this is the second time that Triple H has paid someone to run someone over, except the first time he saved. Oh, okay. The first time that he's saved someone from being run over, because the first time was Stone Cold Steve Austin at the 1999 Survivor Series, if I remember correctly. And I did some fact checking, and I do remember correctly. And by the way, WWE, there's your cheap pop for the 1999 Survivor Series pay-per-view. If you want, you can go watch it. So right as I'm taking my notes, as I'm stating my notes, I remember this is going a little bit differently. You remember when I said that? Well, oh, okay, differently than H. Dave Batista hands. Okay, H hands Dave Batista the microphone. I don't know why that's not down here, and tells him congratulations, and he looks forward to facing him at WrestleMania. Instead of actually coming out and saying it, there was just a clip from the Royal Rumble showing JBL talking in an interview after the Royal Rumble match had concluded, which he had already figured out. JBL had already figured out that Dave Batista had won the Royal Rumble. Anyway, talking about Dave Batista, JBL, he had been put into a barbed wire steel cage match with a Giant. Do you want to talk about momentum? You may as well call me Smoke because I've been on fire, is what JBL says. That if Dave Batista wants to come to SmackDown, JBL is tooting his own horn here, saying that he's faced bigger challenges. And yes, that is true. JBL has faced bigger challenges because JBL has faced, as I stated earlier, if you were listening, a Giant in a barbed wire steel cage. For those of you wondering, that was the first ever barbed wire steel cage. And then every time that JBL would come into like Teddy Long's office, he was always like, Teddy Long, you're trying to take this title from me. Every week you're putting me in more ridiculous and more ridiculous matches. He's like, I can't believe this. What kind of champion am I? I'm a fighting champion, and you keep putting me in these gimmick matches to try to end my career. I can't believe this. He's a fighting champion, but he's also a bitching champion. I mean, I'd be bitching too if somebody put me in a barbed wire steel cage with a fucking Giant over 500 fucking pounds. Be like, I'm half his size. JBL then goes on to say he's built like Tarzan, but he will make him look like Jane, talking about Dave Batista. My God, JBL was on fire. I love how it just seems to being planted. Oh, okay. I love how the seeds are just being planted early. JBL did not challenge Dave Batista. He simply said that if Batista wants to take a challenge, then JBL would be happy to compete. And yes, it is true for those of you who are not aware of what was happening at this time. JBL did go through at that year's No Way Out pay-per-view. He did go through the first ever barbed wire steel cage match with the Big Show, which earlier, no, it wasn't earlier. Okay, so later on today, we're going to talk about another cage match with the Big Show. Sort of. I mean, I mentioned one. Commentary is asking a very valid question. That is, that I was going to ask while Triple H and Ric Flair and Dave Batista are in the ring together. Who's playing the tape of JBL's promo? Like I said, the seeds are being planted, and perhaps to influence Dave Batista's decision making. I love the fact that JBL unprovokingly said that even though that Dave Batista is built like Tarzan, if he steps into the ring, JBL said, if I step into the ring with Dave Batista, even though he's built like Tarzan, I'll make him look like Jane. I'm just like, wow. Intercontinental Championship match as champion Shelton Benjamin faces off against Simon Dean. Shelton Benjamin goes for a stinger splash in the corner, but Simon Dean puts a bag in the way. It's hard to explain. He's basically got this workout bag, sort of like a backpack of some sort. He puts it in the way, but apparently he might have some weight in it or something, because as soon as Benjamin does the stinger splash, while the referee's not looking, Benjamin goes down hard. Shelton Benjamin, though, ends up kicking out. Spinning heel kick by Shelton Benjamin gets a 3 count and the win. 1 out of 5 stars for me. A backstage segment between Triple H and Eric Bischoff. Triple H says he wants to know who played the JBL tape earlier, and he threatens Eric Bischoff by saying that he is trying to get rid of Dave Batista through some back alley trade. So for those of you not aware, back then, you had 2 basically, managers for each brand. And what they would do is they would say, hey, I'll trade you this superstar for that superstar. Sometimes the trades were done on like TV, other times they were done over the internet, other times they were due to like contract restraints or stuff of that nature. But anyway, Triple H is just worried that Dave Batista is going to get sent to SmackDown, and it's going to ruin, I'm going to put this in air quotes, Triple H's main event for WrestleMania, which isn't true at all, because Triple H, even though he acts like he wants that for Dave Batista, he even tried to shake Dave Batista's hand while they were out there in the ring together, but he doesn't want that. The seeds are being planted to make it look like JBL is trying to end Dave Batista's career, when in fact it's not JBL at all. It's that sly devil, Triple H. Triple H even goes as far as to say something along the lines of that Triple H says to Ric Flair in that conversation that I later mentioned that he didn't know that Dave Batista was listening in on. But anyway, Triple H tells Ric Flair that he thinks he knows what's best for Dave Batista. But he doesn't think that Dave Batista knows what's best for Dave Batista. But Triple H is afraid of Dave Batista, and rightfully so. He wants to keep that title around his waist, around his shoulder. Does Triple H. That's why he built Evolution in the first place. He built Evolution to keep him safe. Anyway, Edge comes out next, and Christy Hemme is in the ring. She's giving away free t-shirts by way of a t-shirt gun. So she's got like this big bazooka, and she's like shooting t-shirts into the crowd. By shooting them into the crowd, when Edge comes out complaining that he was in the top 3 but got eliminated by either John Cena and Dave Bautista. He's coming out yelling at Chrissy Hemme like it's her fault that he lost, claiming that she is rubbing it in that he lost the Royal Rumble. Shawn Michaels then comes out to rain on Edge's parade, and his microphone is cutting out, of every other word that he is saying, so it sounds like he's got some sort of a feedback problem. I don't think that this has ever happened to anybody who's had this problem like this in the world of professional wrestling before. The only thing I could think of is because something like there perhaps maybe might be a thunderstorm, thunderstorm in the area of San Jose, California, which is supposed to be where they're live at. There's your cheap pop, California, by the way. You're welcome. I just increased your tourism by like 10%. So hopefully you'll, give me a little bit of 10%. It'd be nice. Can you imagine me getting like a check in the mail from like the city of San Diego, California for like, 10% of their revenue? Shut up. Edge says to Shawn Michaels, but be a man of your word and shake my hand. Because apparently Edge, on the contention, took a match with Shawn Michaels last night at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. That, it was last night at this time is what I should say. But Edge took a match with Shawn Michaels, and he said that if he could beat him, that he would shake his hand. So Edge said, be a man of your word and shake my hand. So it's exactly what Michaels did. Then after he shook his hand, he backed up and then kicked him right in the face. That's what you get for messing with Chrissy Hemme. So he hit him with the sweet chin music. Maven versus Hurricane. Both men are trading blows back and forth and just keeping up with each other's stalemate and watching each other's footwork. Here is an astonishing to see these two in an amazing back and forth stalemate. Then seeing Maven get the upper hand after a counter trap. What is this, Yu-Gi-Oh? Then a side slam. I think I meant to say a corner trap, but for some reason I said counter trap. Like he must have had him in the corner at one point in time and then trapped him. Maven with a modified surfboard stretch on the Hurricane. Hurricane with a clothesline on Maven trying to get some separation. Hurricane with a went for a blockbuster neck breaker from the second rope, but ended up missing it. Maven with a backstabber, picking up the 3 count and the win. 2.5 out of 5 stars. This match wasn't that bad, but it's short and had no real bearing on a story that was being played out. Candice Michelle walking with Maria, and they're talking about the whole JBL Dave Bautista situation as they open the door to a room that clearly has the label of being the distinction of the women's locker room. As soon as they open the door, simultaneously Candice and Maria both yell as though that they've been startled, and the camera pans out to reveal who it was that startled them. It was Gene Snitsky. And the ladies ask a valid question. What are you doing in the women's locker room? You creep. You know, except they don't say you creep. And he was just looking for someone, is what he says. Candice Michelle then goes on to tell him that she doesn't think that they're in there. And he goes and tells Candice Michelle, nice shoes. And then he walks away. Well, what a creep he is. You know, I mean, you're a man. You're in the women's wrestling locker room. And the first thing that the ladies see is, yeah, it's not too... I don't know what to make of that. Also, something that I noticed, I didn't put it down on my notes because it's going to make me look like a pervert to say this, and I'd much rather not have my notes make me look like a pervert. But couldn't help but notice Candice Michelle walking down the hallway. Must have been a little cold where she was at because yeah, it looked a little nippy out there. You know, I'm just going to say it. It looked a little, whatever fabric of clothing that she decided to wear that day, she clearly didn't wear a bra, that's for sure. It looked a little nippy. I know. That's all that I'm saying. I mean, I've seen her in Playboy before, so, you know, it's a little something that I seen. And then I was like, well, Candice. Oh. Then I was like, hey, I appreciate the show, baby. But anyway, segment plays where Eric Bischoff and Theodore Long, and they have a quick banter back and forth as Eric Bischoff tries to accuse Teddy Long of playing the JBL tape earlier during the Raw segment at the top of the show. But Theodore Long, Teddy Long, in saying that he wants or has nothing to do with that, and he has no knowledge of that, of what Eric Bischoff seems to be accusing him of. Eric Bischoff, on the other hand, isn't buying that for a minute. World Tag Team Championships match as Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit versus the La Resistance, Robert Conway, and a man whose name I cannot pronounce. Sylvian is what I think that his name is, but that sounds like a lady's name. So for the duration of this match, I will be referring to him as the other member of La Resistance, who I remember being in La Resistance, Robert Conway and Rene Dupree, who was the original member of La Resistance before he got replaced. What the fuck? Before the match begins, I just want to point out that the fact that I have seen this tag team before. I remember it being Robert Conway and Rene Dupree being in La Resistance. But here it looks like that they've replaced Rene Dupree with someone in hopes that you wouldn't recognize that it's a different person. Recognize that Dupree was gone due to the fact that I am a reporter of sports that I heavily enjoy. I'm going to notice that whenever you replace one white guy with another French white guy, I'm going to have to notice that. Robert Conway and Jericho start the match, trading back and forth, really putting on a performance with quick pace. Benoit, gets the tag, and Conway just forces the tag to Rene Dupree's replacement, Sylvian Grand. I'm just calling him Rene Dupree, and you guys can get over it. Benoit looking for a crossface, and he gets it, but it gets broke up. Just a quick note here, I don't know how, but Jim Ross is able to keep up with who is who as far as telling these two Frenchmen apart. Now, if it were Rene Dupree and Rob Conway, I would be able to tell them apart. Because Rob Conway is much smaller than Rene Dupree. But these two are practically just palette swaps of each other. But I also put a note here that said maybe I'm stupid, and I'm willing to admit that. Maybe for some reason Rene Dupree changed his name to Sylvain Grenier, but if that's the case, then he must have shrunk as well, because Rene Dupree is much taller than the guy on the right here, than this guy right here, rather, Sylvain Grenier. And for some reason, like I said earlier, JR is able to tell these two apart, even though they're both Frenchmen. They're both wearing the same clothes. They both have the same haircut. They both look like palette swaps of each other. Jim Ross on commentary is able to distinguish them, which one is in the ring and which one is outside the ring, waiting for the tag, even though none of them have distinguishing features, allowing you to tell one from the other. In recent years, for instance, the Usos had a system that they still have in place for one another, which one of them would be wearing a glove, or one of them would be wearing a shirt, while the other one wouldn't have a shirt on. And the reason that they done that is to stop Michael Cole from saying, Uso goes for a super kick, Uso goes for the Uso splash, and Uso tags in Uso, because he can't tell them apart. And I don't blame him. Even though he's sitting front row, it's sort of hard to tell whenever, you give the mix up a little bit, especially whenever you look like your twin. You don't have red highlights so that I can tell you apart from your twin. Damn, I would hate to be in a actual working relationship with someone. And I mean like a personal relationship, like a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. And my girlfriend has like a twin sister. I'm not going to be able to tell her apart unless she's got some distinguishing feature. Like, hey, you look kind of nippy today, and you're always wearing that shirt without any sort of covering to it, I just thought that I'd bring it back around just because I made that, and then afterwards I sort of took it away, Candice Michelle looking okay. Anyway, the reason that I'm saying this is in hopes that no one says, oh, you're a racist. Intaguri on Sylvain Grenier. Now Benoit goes for the tag to Jericho. Jericho, a house of fire, as he brings in flying forearms and some offensive maneuvers, going left and right, back and forth, cleaning house. Benoit with a released German suplex on one of the two Frenchmen, whether it was Rene Dupree's replacement, or whether it was Rob Conway. And he gets dumped out of the ring. Not Benoit, but Rene Dupree's replacement. Jericho then really laying in the heat to the champions, really putting them on fire. As I stated before, Jericho was a house of fire whenever he got the hot tag. Jericho has the Walls of Jericho in the modified Boston Crab, but the other tag team partner knocks Jericho as he was performing. So whichever one it was that Jericho had the Walls of Jericho in, let's say that it was Dupree, Robert Conway ended up breaking up the Walls of Jericho for his team. Meanwhile, his tag team partner, Chris Jericho, was knocked out. Chris Benoit was knocked out on the outside thanks to the other half of La Resistance. The guy who wasn't in the Walls of Jericho and the guy who broke up the submission maneuver known as the Walls of Jericho. So, thanks to him, Benoit was knocked out on the outside, and that's why he was able to break up the submission maneuver that was happening inside the ring. The match ends in a double disqualification. I'm not really sure what that entails, but in any case, in a professional wrestling sense, disqualification means that the champions keep their titles, because yes, this was a championship match if I didn't already say that, but they lose the match. I wonder, in a disqualification, if both teams get disqualified, wouldn't that be a draw? In any event, even if it were a draw, however, for those of you who don't know, even though we've covered this before, draws or ties in some sense of this platform that we've covered before, in the event of a draw or a tie game, the champion retains their championship. Muhammad Hassan comes out to the ring then and made some comments about radical discrimination in America. Here's the part that's funny to me. I was told that Muhammad Hassan, or Davari, whichever one, maybe even both of them, was Canadian. But they're both being portrayed as Arab Americans here, all because, this is 2005, and we just gotta talk about the elephant in the room, Islam, or anything else for that matter. They start to show the clip from the Royal Rumble in which that he was shown to be eliminated by 8 men. So here's the thing. Whenever it came time for Muhammad Hassan got into the ring at the Royal Rumble, you know what he did wrong? He taunted the other individuals that were in the ring. I fail to see how this is racial, or for that matter, even radical discrimination. You want to hear discrimination? I mean, I hate to say this, but I was just sexist like 6 minutes ago, I didn't have to make the comment about how nippy it looked outside for Candice Michelle, but it was right there. It was right there, and I happened to notice it. So much so that I went back and watched it a second time. I watched Candice Michelle walk down the hallway, and then I thought, wow, what I wouldn't kill to be the cotton on her shirt right now, because my God, did she look beautiful. Not just her smile, not just her eyes, not just her nose, but it looked rather nippy outside. I know that I'm driving home this overdrawn joke that I could have just made one time and left it alone. But listen to me, this is my show. And I know you guys like it. On top of that, I want you to go back. I want you to go back and watch the Royal Rumble not watch the Royal Rumble, but watch the episode of Monday Night Raw after the Royal Rumble in 2005. And then you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. You'll see it, and then you'll say, wow, that's not PG. What the fuck? Anyway, the clip in question is him bringing a lot of attention to himself, because as soon as he comes into the ring, as soon as he gets his ass in the Royal Rumble, as soon as he steps in the ring, he taunts all of the other superstars. He does this thing wherever he just makes like, you know how referees at the football games, they do like to signify whether the kick was good or not? Well, he does like, the kick is good, but then afterwards he looks up at the sky, and then upon raising his hands like that, he drops them very quickly. And then like 6 or 7 people are looking at each other, and then they're like, did this Did this motherfucker just taunt us? Oh, hell no, he's getting thrown out. So, of course, that's what happens whenever you taunt. You don't bring attention to yourself. The point of the Royal Rumble is to stay close to the corner, not too close to the ropes, so that you don't get thrown out. Or for that matter, hang on for dear life. Do what Kofi Kingston does. Do what Kat Zingano does. Like, just make sure that your feet don't touch the fucking floor. Apparently there's, the floor is lava. You ever played that game? And, playing that game was a lot of fun back whenever you were a kid, because there'd be like 3 or 4 people on one set of furniture, and you'd be jumping up and down playing the floor is lava, and then you would see your friend, and then you would catch them off guard by shoving them off of the furniture that you've already established that the floor is lava. So therefore they're dead. Your friend is dead, and then they try to get back on the couch and say, I still want to play. And then you're like, no, you're dead. You're dead, buddy. And then after, the other 2 motherfuckers are still like, I guess the point of the game is to be the sole survivor, because you're pushing them off too. You're thinking to yourself, hey, you can't come back. The floor is lava. Whenever you get pushed into the magma, into the lava, like, ain't nobody coming back from that. Think about that. Fucking Charizard burns down your house. You're not coming back from that. Anyway, they play the clip that I aforementioned before I got distracted, talking about nonsense and how nippy it looks today. And the other superstars, and they see him, they decide to actually collectively, as they need to eliminate him, and that's exactly what they do. It took 8 superstars, according to Muhammad Hassan, to eliminate him, and he found that to be racial discrimination. He then went on to challenge anybody in the back who would want to step up against him, and Sergeant Slaughter came out, and the match started. Well, I wouldn't really call it much of a match, and that's why I didn't give it much of a rating. So it's a segment. For that reason, I'm not going to rate the match. Sergeant Slaughter came out, and he was holding an American flag. But I'm glad that they did the right thing here. I'm really glad that they did the right thing here. To a lot of you might not think that this is the right thing, because, of course, Sergeant Slaughter is somewhat of a legend, right, in the wrestling business. But if you think about it, it wouldn't really make much sense for Sergeant Slaughter to come out there and then win. If he does win, what does that do for Muhammad Hassan? Like, he's the younger talent, he's the younger guy, and as much as we as Americans want to toot our own horns and be like, I get that Islami piece of shit out of here or whatever, he's Canadian. Calm down. Either him or Daivari or both of them are Canadian. If I remember correctly. It's sort of like Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal, just because he's Indian, you're going to hate him? No, don't hate him just because he's Indian. Find some other, you like everybody else if they're an immigrant, For some reason, I see people who they love the fact that, Drew McIntyre is Scottish. They love that. Oh my God, he's Scottish. The Scottish Superman or whatever they call him, Like, you can't be like that, If you're going to discriminate against one culture and then not, Scottish people, I got nothing wrong with them. Nothing wrong with a Scottish person, And I've been to Scotland. It looks rather nippy in Scotland. Okay, I'm sorry. Almost ran out of time. So, don't worry, we're almost at the end. So anyway, what ends up happening is, the strangest thing is, Okay, yeah, Muhammad Hassan put into the Cobra Clutch on Slaughter, and Muhammad Hassan ended up winning because Sergeant Slaughter tapped out. The strangest thing is he portrays an Arab American when in reality I'm pretty sure he's Canadian. Okay, so a lot of you you probably don't need me to explain Forrest Gump to you. But I'm going to link a video in the description below. If you haven't seen this, you should probably go watch it. It is like I know people hate commercials, like, I'm with you there. I absolutely hate commercials. But this one is one worth checking out. For those of you who don't know, back when WrestleMania went Hollywood for the first time, because they did it a second time, believe it or not, and it sort of disingenuously ruins the first time if you think about it. It's sort of like the first time that you have sex, someone walks in on you, and the second time, whenever it's rather nippy outside. You see where I'm going with this? Because I don't, I'm just trying to feel as much cheap jokes as possible. Oh my God, I hope that this is not recorded on a potato. Just like that Shea Stadium cage match that I watched a few years ago. Anyway, WrestleMania 21 commercial. They are portrayed as Forrest Gump. So, you remember that at the beginning of the movie where he's at the bus stop and he's waiting? And that iconic line of, what's the line? Mama always said, life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. That iconic line right there. Hopefully I did it some justice. But anyway, this time, instead of Tom Hanks, they've got Eugene. He's sitting by the bus, and there's this lady beside of him. And I guess it's supposed to be like parody. When at the beginning of the movie, he's waiting by the bus stop, Eugene says, my mama always said, life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. He then goes on to say, but I think life's more like WrestleMania. And then he goes, like WrestleMania 3, when Hogan picks up Andre and he body slams him. Or last year at WrestleMania, when Chris Benoit made Triple H tap out. And then he says the most iconic line ever. When he quotes WrestleMania 14, he says, or WrestleMania 14, when Mike Tyson punched Shawn Michaels. He just reared back and this time, he punches the lady sitting next to him at the park bench. And then what happens next is Eugene's mentor at the time was William Regal. And William Regal comes up and he's fanning this lady maybe to try to get her to gain consciousness because she just got punched in the jaw. And she's passed out. And then William Regal says, run, Eugene, run. So I'll leave a link in the description below for those of you non-wrestling fans who haven't seen it, or for those of you wrestling fans who perhaps just want to relive it one more time because it's hilarious. especially given the context. And whenever I was young, I didn't understand that. You know, I didn't get it, but now I get it. I'm instead of being like the Joker at one of those movies wherever he was like, "You wouldn't get it," he's smoking the cigarette or whatever. I'm like, actually, I would. Before the main event gets underway, Triple H and Ric Flair are doing some telling. Oh, Triple H is telling Ric Flair how stingy he thinks that he's being. Teddy Long offered Batista a lot of money to go over and wrestle at SmackDown. So Triple H is trying to convey his feelings toward Ric Flair about how he feels that he's being stingy. Triple H says that he's being stingy because Teddy Long offered Batista a lot of money to go over to SmackDown. And wrestle at SmackDown. Triple H says he then goes on to say that Batista should take that money and he should go over to SmackDown and wrestle JBL. And he also says that, quote, because that's a championship that he can actually win. As if to diminish anything, like any time that Batista and Triple H get into the ring, that's a championship that he can actually win, is the one that JBL holds. Randy Orton and Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair and Triple H, and this is our co-main event, despite what Ric Flair said that this is the main event. Flair starts the match with Randy Orton, and Orton and Flair exchanging blows. Flair then starts to chop him in the corner. Triple H takes the tag from Flair, so Michael gets in the ring. Of course, I'm talking about Shawn Michaels. They do a little bit about the Royal Rumble, and Shawn Michaels goes on to get eliminated by Kurt Angle. Okay, so I guess this is what commentary was talking about, because they don't really show much of a highlights package as far as I can tell. But that would also set up for Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels, which I didn't know why that was a big deal whenever I was younger. I didn't understand why that was a big deal. Knowing the two men and their career paths and what I read about, for that matter, or anything else, I understand why Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels was such a big deal. But that was such an underwhelming match. Their match at WrestleMania, Kurt Angle would end up tapping out HBK. Anyway, didn't go on to face him at WrestleMania. Knowing now what I know about both men and their careers, it was a dream match that for fans at the time as well. Triple H and Michaels exchanging blows in the corner. Batista at ringside starts going irate for virtually no reason. He starts making a whole bunch of noise, and the referee kicks him out. A small detail that you may have not noticed is that on his way out, Batista was smiling as though that he was proud of himself for accomplishing a goal. Keep in mind that earlier on in the night, Triple H said maybe Batista should go to SmackDown because that's a championship that he could actually win. Whenever we come back to commercial break, Ric Flair is the legal man and Shawn Michaels in the corner getting chopped by Flair. Ric Flair kicks out of a pin by Shawn Michaels. That makes no sense. For some reason, it says that Ric Flair kicks out of a pin and Michaels calls Michaels' office. It makes no sense. Suplex only to get a 2 count on Ric Flair. Shawn Michaels off the shoulder tackle only gets a 2 count on Ric Flair. So he keeps making all these half-hearted pin attempts toward Ric Flair. And after Ric Flair gets up, after that second near fall, he's in the corner, and then he's looking at Shawn Michaels. Ric Flair is, and then he says, no more. And then he starts wooing in his face. And Triple H gets the tag, the spine buster on Shawn Michaels, and he only gets a 2 count. Triple H tags out to Ric Flair. Triple H pins Shawn Michaels, only to get a 2 count. Once again, another near fall. Triple H with an abdominal stretch in his corner, isolating Shawn Michaels from his corner, keeping him from getting the tag to Randy Orton. HBK chants echo throughout the arena. HBK tries to make a comeback, but only gets shut down by Ric Flair, who Triple H tagged in shortly after. HBK with the Irish whip into the corner. Flair counters with an elbow to the jaw because Shawn Michaels had Flair in the corner. HBK tags into Randy Orton, and Orton off the hot tag is cleaning house. Batista earlier in the night was thrown out for no apparent reason. Even Jerry Lawler on commentary says, why? He wasn't doing anything. You want to know what he was doing? He was acting a fool. He grabbed a steel chair and started beating it off the steel ring post and off the steel ring steps for no apparent reason whatsoever. I mean, there was no reason to get all bent out of shape, but on his way to the locker room, he was smiling too. He's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't be there, guys. I got thrown out. Which was probably his plan all along, Dave Batista's plan all along. Whenever Triple H gets to the back, he's probably going to be wondering, where was Dave Batista? For those of you who are not aware, I'm pretty sure I said it earlier in the program, but Triple H made Evolution in storyline to protect himself. He never once did it cross Triple H's mind that he would have to face off against his Evolution members. He thought that they would all bend over backwards to protect him, to treat him as though that he was some sort of king or some sort of royalty, and stay blindly loyal to him. Randy Orton has Triple H in the corner, hammering away at the right hands, and then we get a ref bump just happened to be sandwiched between Orton and Flair. Sometime I feel like these referees are made of glass. RKO on Flair from Orton. HBK gets up, sees Triple H going for the pedigree on Orton. He stops him dead in his tracks with a super kick to the jaw of Triple H. Edge then interferes and tries to spear Shawn Michaels, but Michaels moves out of the way, and Edge hits Triple H instead. Keep in mind that earlier on in the night, it was announced that Edge will face off against Triple H in next week's Monday Night Raw. They will be live from Japan for the first time ever. Edge interferes and tries to spear Shawn Michaels. Michaels moves out of the way and hits Triple H instead. Then Edge gets hit by a flying forearm. Orton pins Triple H to win. 3.5 out of 5 stars, despite the constant interference and the typical Ric Flair shenanigans, such as a ref bump. They told a really good story here, and It was decently timed. It came at a really good pace. Steel cage match is Kane versus Gene Snitsky. And this is our main event, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! Main event. I wonder if, whenever Gene Snitsky got out of the women's locker room, I wonder if he, off camera, maybe looked at Candice Michelle and said, "Looking rather nippy today, Candice." Oh my God, I can stop, but Gene Snitsky does not get an entrance. Apparently, he shows up before the final commercial break, or rather, while it's going on. God damn it! The final commercial break, just to scope out the cage. Lillian Garcia, our announcer this evening, only gets to announce Kane, who comes out to the ring, who gets, for those of you who are not aware, usually a pretty good indication as to who's going to win this contest is usually the person who gets the pyro, the person who gets the entrance, the amenities, such as entrance music, as well as coming out during the commercial break, is the person who is going to win the match. So what I meant to say was the person who doesn't come out during the commercial break, that's usually a good indication as to who's going to win this match. Double shoulder takedown early on in this one as both men try to find a dominant position, but running into a stalemate. Kane with a clothesline knocking Snitsky off his feet. Snitsky stops Kane from getting to the top of the cage. He starts to punish Kane, who is between the proverbial rock and the hard place, because he's basically up against a wall and a big man with 200 pounds on him and up against the ring apron. But, I mean, if he wants to get out of the way, all he has to do is, crawl under or over one of those rings. One of those ropes, I should say. Trish Stratus comes to the ring, is wearing a neck brace, and you know how I've been making these nippy jokes? Well, they're going to continue, because Jim Ross on commentary ends up saying she's coming to the ring wearing a neck brace. Guess what Jerry Lawler on commentary says? Jerry Lawler, on the other hand, said, "Oh, she's wearing a neck brace? I didn't even notice." Of course, he's fixated on her cleavage, implying that he was looking at everything else that she was wearing, or, for that matter, wasn't wearing. But for Trish Stratus, it didn't really look that nippy. I'm just going to throw that out there. Candice Michelle, though, I mean, maybe I should just lay off I swear, I feel like Feminists United is going to end up canceling my podcast. Oh my God. Kane trying to escape through the door, but every time he does, Snitsky pulls him back into the ring. Snitsky gets his head rammed onto one of the steel beams, preferably protruding from the steel cage, and gets knocked down onto the floor. Trish Stratus, however, is on the other side of the cage, perhaps wondering about either Kane or Snitsky. In this context, it makes no sense, because 2 weeks ago, she was put in a neck brace by Kane, who seen mocking Trish Stratus's Okay, so Trish Stratus was seen mocking Kane's wife. And upon doing that, Kane got really irritated and decided that it was a good idea to teach her a lesson for mocking his wife. And so he chokeslammed her through a table, apparently. Which begs the question, why the hell is she out here in the first place? And shortly after my question, I get an answer. Because Kane sees that Trish Stratus is trying to sabotage this wrestling match between him and Snitsky by closing the door in Kane while Kane was trying to escape. So she was basically trying to shut the door on Kane's hand or in his entire body, basically. Cage door, it closes, but before it can close. But keep in mind, Trish Stratus is a very small woman, you know, in regards to Kane, who they claim weighs 320 pounds. So he was able to outpower her, and for that matter, he grabs her, right? And then afterwards, he goes ahead and he's going to chokeslam her, but then he eats a boot for his trouble. Because Gene Snitsky gets up and delivers a big boot to the face of the mush of Kane, and then starts to save Trish Stratus, telling her to get out of the ring. That's probably, I mean, in all seriousness, maybe that's who Trish was looking. I mean, that's who Gene Snitsky was looking for, was Trish Stratus. You know, whenever he came out of the locker room, the ladies' locker room, and he met the nippy Candice Michelle, he went ahead and he said he was looking for someone. Snitsky goes for a pin, but only gets a 2 count off the big boot. Snitsky, in an absolutely unbelievable feat of strength, tears the door off of the cage hinges, off of the hinges of the cage, and it looks as though that he's trying to fit it through the entryway, perhaps to use it as a lethal weapon on about 3 or 4 episodes ago. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, we did see this happen when Mark Henry took the door off of the cage and beat the Big Show, allowing Alberto Del Rio to win the match. And for those of you wondering, I can even link that in the description below. I'll remember to link the WrestleMania 21. You guys would probably want to see all those commercials, but I'm just going to link the one. For those of you who aren't wrestling fans or you haven't seen those WrestleMania 21 commercials, there's a few of them. There's one featuring The Undertaker, who plays Dirty Harry. There's one featuring JBL and John Cena, and JBL, if I remember correctly, he says, "You can't handle the truth." There's one where I'm drawing a blank, but he's in a trench coat and he points at the camera and he says, "You talking to me? You talking to me? There's nobody else here, so you must be talking to me." There's one where Big Show doesn't understand the line, and he's trying to ask the director, right? What's the line? And here's kind of how that exchange goes. Big Show asks for the line, right? He's like, "Hey, what's the line that I'm supposed to recite?" And then the director says, "You talking to me?" And then after that, Big Show goes, "What is this guy, what? A wise guy?" Big Show's like trying to ask the guy, what's the line that he's supposed to be saying? And the director keeps saying, "You talking to me?" He doesn't give any sort of other context, like, "Big Show, here's your line." It's, you know, maybe show him some air quotes. Literally, "You talking to me?" You know, like, give him some sort of, don't just keep saying, "You talking to me? You talking to me?" Kane then sets up the cage door on a vertical position using using the ropes as leverage, and he picks up Gene Snitsky and drops him penis first on that. He feels on the cage door. He just got neutered. Then he drops the cage door in a vertical position, laying it down, and then he choke slams Snitsky onto the cage door. And as I stated before, the person who usually gets the amenities, such as entrance music, who doesn't come out during the commercial break or whatever else, usually that person is the person winning the match. And in this case, I am correct, because Kane ended up getting the pin and the win, as Trish Stratus ended up leaving there shortly after, or even there shortly before. I mean, the camera doesn't pan over to Trish, but it looks like Kane was laughing at somebody on the ring ramp. Like, that'll teach you to mock my wife. How dare you mock my wife? 2.5 out of 5 stars. Sure, it was some sort of entertaining, but I really don't think that was deserving to be the main event of a Monday Night Raw. I think it should have been, if anything, the co-main event. If anything. Also, it's very surprising to me that this is the second time that we've seen someone pull the cage door off of the hinges, then try to beat someone in the head with it. The first time was Mark Henry doing it to the Big Show, allowing Alberto Del Rio to win said cage match, as I just mentioned earlier, because the Big Show and Alberto Del Rio were in a cage match. For some reason, Mark Henry showed up, he interfered, and then he just completely beat the Big Show upside the head with a cage door. That was at least, that was the last episode of Raw Roulette that we looked at. Anyone who wanted to go back and look at that one again, I will leave a link in the description below. So I've got some more content for you guys to check out. Maybe if you want to go back and relive that episode, or for that matter, just to see what it was. What are you talking about? Cage door. I don't remember that episode, Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, that's about all the time I have for you this week. Thank you all so much, and I do apologize that this episode is late. I think that today is Monday, if I remember correct. Today is, well, now that it's midnight, it's Tuesday. So, what do you know? This episode will go out tomorrow. And by tomorrow, I mean around noonish on Tuesday. Because releasing it right now really wouldn't do me any favors. No one would really check it out. Maybe they would. Who knows? And I'm sorry that this episode is particularly long. I had a lot to say, especially about the Sami Zayn situation. So, for those of you wondering, yes, I would most definitely go on strike, go on hiatus, and I would want to do this for the content. I would not, however, want to check out WWE, but understand, ladies and gentlemen, that I don't have so many amenities that I used to have. Thank you all so much for joining me. I've been Mocha. This has been the Gut Wrench Podcast. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Good night, everybody. That's a wrap. Good night. Bang.